But like we played around, we played with friends, we had this great imagination, great curiosity, great creativity. But slowly as we grew older, our parents told us you need to start studying more, or you need to do these things. And then you slowly start pleasing other individuals, so you slowly start pleasing society. And then in that sense, I kind of feel like as a society, we kind of forgot what that innocence, playfulness, joy, doing something because it gives you joy is.
Welcome to Learn or Be Learned. We either learn from others or others learn from us. The former is able to help us become a better, faster you. Follow me weekly as I dig up stories like a true anthropologist would on one of the 3 series called Guest Conversations, Book Applications, or my Small Talk Explorations. I'm your host, Shiva Danshekar, and let's talk. All right, so I'm here with PK. PK and I kind of met online on Instagram, and we found each other's podcasts, and I thought this would be an interesting talk. PK, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Prasanna, but I also go by PK. I'm a graduating senior at Emory University, studying neuroscience and interdisciplinary studies on the pre-med track. But I guess more importantly, I'm a host of a podcast named Playground, and the purpose of my podcast is to rediscover the inner childs of my guests. So I ask them questions about their childhood, what they were passionate about, what they were passionate about as a child, and how those passions influence their current lives today. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of theme of my podcast. Yeah.
Did you come up with that from the spot, or did that kind of grow into?
So the podcast name is Playground, like I mentioned, and I had the idea for Playground back in 2016. It was over the summer. I was doing a summer program at Brown University, and they were asking us to, it was like a leadership program, and they were asking us to create some program or something to help the society or help like the community. And I had the idea back then where like I realized that every individual has a inner child within them, and they once you tap into that inner child, you kind of do what you want to do because it brings you joy and brings you happiness rather than doing something because society tells you to do something. So I wanted to focus more on that, but I didn't know how to focus in on it. So I had the idea 2016, but then I like booked it like in my bookmarks, and I was like working on like graduating high school, getting to college and everything. And then fast forward to the summer of 2019, I actually was here at Emory with my friends. We were living in an off-campus apartment, and that was the first time I was really introduced to, I would say, the adults in this world. So I was doing research and everything at Yorkie's at the field station, and I was doing research here at Emory. But like the people I was working with were adults, and I was able to ask them deep questions about life, what brought them here, why they were passionate about their research, and that was a great difference compared to my conversations that I had with other students, because they had that life experience, and it was like, I felt like Emory was in a bubble, but having those conversations with those individuals made me feel like I was popping the bubble, and I was like getting to know them on a deeper level. And I wanted to have these deeper conversations with my friends at Emory, and also with just people, strangers from the internet. And I remembered when I was thinking about this, I had the idea of doing a podcast style thing to have conversations with individuals. And then I remembered my passion, or the idea I had back in 2016 about Playground, about the inner child. So I decided to focus in on the inner child while having these deep conversations. So I had 2 seasons out so far. I'm currently working on season 3. Season 1 is mostly my friends at Emory and my friends from high school. So people I knew in my close community, trying to understand how the podcast works, trying to ask questions, trying to listen and everything. And then the season 2 was full on complete strangers from the internet. So I found DM people on Instagram. People started DMing me on Instagram, and I had like a slew of different like people, different guests on my podcast who I found through the internet, who were complete strangers, asking them the same questions about their inner child, what they enjoyed doing as a child, and what they're doing right now, and how to reintroduce that childhood passion to their current lives today.
So you kind of already mentioned what inner child is. Kind of want to talk about that a little further. What exactly does that mean? Does that mean you're finding your inner innocence, your inner freedom? What exactly aspect of the inner child are you trying to bring back into your life?
I would say innocence, and I use this example a lot. Most of the guests on my show are college students, so like late teens, early 20s. And I feel like around this time in our lives, we kind of make a decision of what our careers want to be, or like we kind of make huge decisions in this 2 to 3 year time period.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I noticed is while making these decisions, we tend to forget what our inner child wanted. So when I say the inner child, I mean thinking about you as a child, what gave you joy? What were you naturally curious about? And then how you could bring that curiosity, that same like joy you had to the same topics you're exploring right now, or if it's a different topic, how to reintroduce that same topic to what you're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, because I kind of feel like this, especially with like pre-med students or like B-school students or whatever, many people focus on how much money they can make after college, or like the prestige of the university or the graduate institution they want to go to, or like other stuff that society puts value on. But I think what's more important is what gives you happiness. And that I see a clear distinction there between happiness and what society expects of you. So I feel like as a child, we didn't do what other people told us to do, because we didn't do things because other people told us to do them. We did them because we enjoyed doing them and we wanted to do them. But like we played around, we played with friends, we had this great imagination, great curiosity, great creativity. But slowly as we grew older, our parents told us you need to start studying more, or you need to do these things. And then you slowly start pleasing other individuals, so you slowly start pleasing society. And then in that sense, I kind of feel like as a society, we kind of forgot what that innocence, playfulness, joy, doing something because it gives you joy is. So I wanted to bring that like passion back into like the adult life, or back into my guest is like late teens, early 20s. So back into that while making a decision about your career, while making a decision about lifelong decisions, like putting your happiness first instead of what society wants you to do. So trying to balance that between the two.
No, I like that. I think you're right. I think society is very fast paced as well. Life is very fast paced. I think sometimes we stop and forget. You know, we got to have hobbies. We got to have other interests, things that make us happy. Oftentimes, if you ask someone, especially workaholics, if you ask, what are your hobbies? They won't have any. They'll say, working is my hobby. But you kind of realize, are you working for, a job, or is the job actually become your entire life? And you have no other distinction between, work, happiness. And the best would be if your work was what you love to do. So is this finding your, happiness, finding what you love to do, is this more for people's job, career paths, or is it more hobbies that you're trying to bring back into their lives?
I would say hobbies. I can't change career paths or anything like
that.
I don't want to impose anything, but I definitely say hobbies. So I have 3 main goals in my life, I guess. I want to change the education system, the healthcare system, and the corporate world by introducing the idea of play, creativity, imagination into these spaces. And by introducing these ideas, I don't want to like change career paths or anything, just having the option to think about what I want, what happiness, what brings me happiness, and making time for that. And most of these lessons are stuff I learned. I know you read this book too, it's Rich Dad Poor Dad. Well, like I forgot which lesson it was, but he mentions like prioritizing yourself, focus on learning rather than the profit or how much money it makes. Like when he went for a job, when he was looking for a job, he did stuff because of the skills he learned, not because of the money it gave you. And I think that same passion, like he had a passion for learning, that same passion for learning could apply here too. Like doing things because it gives you passion, not because of the money, but the skills you learn. And what I mean by the skills you learn, and when Rich Dad Poor Dad says the skills you learn, I'm also, that directly connects with your inner child happiness, because the skills you learn, you enjoy learning those skills.
Yeah. So
that's the connection I'm trying to like focus on, instead of choosing a job because of how much money it makes you. And then I feel like once you get stuck in like Rich Dad Poor Dad calls it the rat race. Yeah. You just get stuck in it. But like having that self-awareness to look back and realize that, are you actually doing what you want to do that gives you happiness? Are you actually pleasing what your inner child would want you to do? And some of the questions I ask is, what did you want to do as a child? And what are you doing right now? And if there's a difference, what happened? And then that gets the conversation going to all asking them what advice would their inner child give them to the person they become today. So by asking that question, I kind of force them to think about how they viewed the world as a child, and then how that view could help them right now trying to achieve their goals or whatever. So that's like the main thing is creativity, imagination, and yeah, creativity and imagination is kind of what I'm going at, and curiosity as well.
Yeah, no, it's actually kind of funny. I think I'm finding more of my inner child since COVID than, in a long time. I think it's kind of funny because I think as a kid, and oftentimes as a kid you want to be like 7 different things.
Yeah.
You're like, I want to be an astronaut and a dancer and a movie director and everything. But I definitely had medicine on my list for the longest time since a kid, and I think for the first time during COVID, I was looking back and thinking I can actually do whatever I want to do. And I think in a weird way, I think it's like a reverse finding your inner child, but it nonetheless sounds like the same lines. And I think you're right. We both read some of the similar books, and Rich Dad Poor Dad was probably the first book I read that kind of opened my eyes for this kind of world, because like you said, the education system is a little lacking, especially in terms of helping you understand what life means. I think we focus a lot on books and job and not enough on life and life skills like taxes and things like that. So yeah, I like the idea of finding your inner child, because I think that is where you're going to find true happiness and truly what you want to do. It's just sometimes it's not the clearest to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And there's different methods to do so. What I would say is I personally believe that each of us knew or like had, when people say like I want to become a doctor or like an astronaut, like a business person or whatever, these things are society derived, like society created. There's a doctor job, or like there's a data analyst, or there's a computer scientist. But what I'm looking at is what Rich Dad Poor Dad looks at is the skills. Like, what skills do you learn when you practice medicine? It's healing, connecting with other individuals, empathy, compassion. With computer science, is problem solving, how to code in ways that work, not just like the label. So like trying to focus on those skills, because those skills are the ones that are be transferable, and those skills connect with like what human, like the curiosity or the inner child, like the curiosity, creativity of the inner child strives for, not the labels like financial analyst or like business person or like whatever those labels are, and like all you do is like manage people or something like that. There's that clear distinction, and that's what we should focus more on, the skills rather than the labels.
I like that a lot. I think the same way. I think because oftentimes, my mom said growing up, I'd be like, oh, why did I write that, or why did I do that assignment, or like, why did I do that extracurricular project? I feel like it was a waste of my time. And my mom would often say, life has a funny way of connecting skills that So even if you think something is useless that you're learning, or like hindsight, you look back at it and you're like, oh, I feel like that was useless. I didn't need to know how to paint. But maybe, 15 years from now, you'll have something that you are interested in that involves that skill or a different skill. And it's just a weird way life has connecting skills. So I think you're right. I think learning skills is far more important than gaining a title or some sort of societal recognition. But in terms of other books, what are some of the other books that you really enjoyed reading?
There's this fiction book called The Alchemist, which talks about the story of a young shepherd and then his journey to discover the meaning of life, and like what the purpose of life is, what's the purpose of happiness and everything. And that book it's kind of very spiritual based. I'm more spiritual than religious, and it kind of hits on like the ideas of like being connected to like the universe, of being connected to a source and like getting energy from that source and something. So that's kind of like a spiritual side of self-help. Other books, I say 10X Rule by Grant Cardone has been a big one. Just like him, I like Grant Cardone because of his how he outlines how to take action and like what action really means. And I kind of use his stuff to like find guests on my podcast, start my podcast. It's like I know that from him I could just learn how to take action and like follow through on that action. Other than Grant Cardone, The Alchemist, let me think, what else have I been reading? I have a list, but
yeah, I read the Subtle Art of Not Giving a
I read that
by
too.
Mark Manson.
Yeah,
that one's a good mindset shifting book rather than a more guideline or plan or some sort of eye-opening knowledge. It's more so just things that you kind of know, but said in a very eloquent way of kind of eloquent. He uses the F word a lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? As kind of, I think, like comedically. But yeah, it's a good mind shift book if you're looking for, how to like worry less, right? That was mainly
Yeah,
what it was.
it's just I like that book a lot because the other books touch upon this, but it talks a lot about you have one life to live. It's just one life. So do whatever you want to do with that one life. You don't really need to care what other people think about you. And it is a huge mindset shift. And that's actually the first book I read in this kind of genre. I didn't realize it was self-help. I just read it. And then I slowly got into the self-help genre, but that was one of the first ones I read.
Yeah, that's a hard one, though, trying to block out people, especially with media and all this commotion and noise always coming at you, always bombarding you. It's very difficult to just tune out, but I'm sure your spirituality helps with that too. You do meditating and stuff?
I do meditation, yeah.
Yeah. What kind? Like open
Vipassana. So like I used the Headspace app. Headspace app. I learned a lot about Tibetan Buddhism at Emory. So I talked to the Tibetan Buddhist monks. I interviewed them for not my podcast. I will be interviewing them for my podcast, but for my honors thesis, I took a class with a former Tibetan Buddhist monk, and he taught us how to meditate. And Vipassana meditation is just like focusing on the breath and like doing a body scan to make sure like you'll avail of where your body is in the physical world and everything. And that kind of meditation, like 10-20 minutes of that, kind of helps me feel connected. And I feel good after it.
What have you noticed in yourself? Do you feel a lot calmer, more focused?
I feel a lot more calm.
You seem like a calm guy.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, you seem like a calm guy too.
Yeah.
I like this vibe you have.
Oh, thank you.
Like aesthetically pleasing. I'd say much more calm. I'd say I love nature a lot, and I try to connect my the visualizations I usually do in my meditation is like next to a lake or like next to a waterfall, like feeling the breeze on my face or something, like the sunlight on my skin. So it's a lot of me. Like I remember, like after I do meditations, I like look at my hands and I realize like wow, like someone like natural selection gave me like 5 fingers and I could like actually move them around with my mind, like understanding that in a deeper level or like realizing that and just being. I think the main thing I get from it is gratitude, and gratitude is huge in my one of my spiritual journeys is being grateful every single day for waking up, and then just being grateful that I'm alive today and I have the opportunity to live. And if you look at life through that perspective, like any setbacks, anything that goes down, anything that goes wrong, just slowly fades away because you're grateful. If you're grateful for being alive, then these it overpowers the negative stuff.
They're not as big as you're making them be. Yeah, that's something I really have been trying to work on recently is gratitude. You've heard of probably gratitude journals.
I do have a gratitude journal.
Yeah, exactly. I've been trying to do more of that just because I feel like you said, I feel like problems that I see will no longer be either problems or anything worth giving it its stress or anxiety or sadness over, because you're alive. You made it another day. You're blessed to have, like you said, your mobility. There's always something, it's being taken for granted. I feel like.
And meditation helps me like pause life and focus in on that. And once I feel gratitude, I could approach the day and like things. When I say connected to the universe again, like I feel like it feels like a flow state. And I noticed this self-help author book. Someone talks about flow states.
Yeah, I think it's called flow or something.
The Flow
right?
Project, Flow Research Institute or something like that. But like he talks about how like productivity hacks or whatever, like how you could like get into this flow state and get as much work done. And I feel like I get into that flow state when I'm feeling grateful, like starting my day off with gratitude over the gratitude journal, and then immediately with Grant Cardone taking action.
Yeah,
just taking as much action as I can, and then just going with the flow.
What is your morning routine like?
So I had a good morning routine the past couple of years, but then senioritis hit, second semester senior year, I stopped doing anything. So I'm not like a perfect human being.
Yeah.
But I say...
What was your ideal morning routine?
So what I would do is I would wake up, I would wake up, I would like say some prayers, like from grateful for being alive or whatever. I would then go take a shower, brush my teeth, everything, and then when I got back, I would play some full 132 hertz music.
Mm-hmm.
So just some calm, peaceful music.
Or is that alpha wave?
Alpha wave, so yeah, some of the wave music. I don't know which one.
Some wave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'd do a gratitude journal, and then I start my gratitude journal with like, I am so happy and grateful now that I have blah 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 blah. So it would be things that I have, and then things I want in the future too. So I'm so happy and grateful now that I have retired my parents, or I'm so happy and grateful now that I have a loving wife, or whatever it is that I want. And then I write that stuff down, and I feel that moment of gratitude in the moment itself. For like, this is all with visualization too, like visualizing myself having the things I want. So I do that with the gratitude, and then after that I do a headspace meditation app, 15-20 minutes I'd say. And after that I have this thing called a 10x journal. So this is solely based off of Grant Cardone. I actually met Grant Cardone live in Atlanta at like a personal development conference with Tony Robbins. And then
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. And then I was able to get one of his courses there. And then I did his course on personal finances because I wanted to make sure I knew my personal finances.
Did that help?
It helped a lot. So I took notes. So I bought it. I took all the notes I can from the thing, and then I under my subscription, and I have all the notes like in a Google Drive. And then I reviewed those notes every single day, and I would just repeat what I wrote in those. And it's called a 10x journal because it's just like random. It's those notes, and then I have random quotes from other books, self-help books that I read, or like other quotes from various places, like gems. So I just just literally rewrite what I've written already, and that takes like around 10 minutes to fill up the page, and that's called a 10x journal for me. And then I have my own journal, and then with my own journal, I have two journals. One I've already written, and when I'm writing in. So because I'm still writing, so I usually go to my old written journal, and then I just look at previous journal articles, like just reflecting on life or like other stuff, because I written like I kind of like copied and pasted Rich Dad Poor Dad instead of one journal. So like I just like literally wrote what he had written down. So I read that, whatever I'm feeling like, and then I write whatever I'm feeling, my thoughts in my own journal, and then I would start the day. Yeah.
How long does that take?
That takes about an hour or so, I'd say,
of your day.
Yeah.
Morning.
And I kind of usually, ideally, like before senioritis and senior year hit, I would wake up around 5 or 6 a.m. Yeah. And I enjoyed doing that. So I wake up at 5 a.m. I did this process, and then I started my day.
Yeah. I know this is bad, and I'm still trying to shake it, but whenever I wake up after sunrise, my day is just less productive. I've noticed that. I definitely am someone who enjoys waking up before sunrise. I think it helps me build a lot of momentum to keep going. I'm probably just a morning person, but I have like a somewhat similar routine, but like you said, senioritis and finals and all that kind of took it by storm. But have you tried, so apparently there's this, I don't know, maybe fact check me on this, but what I read was in the first 15 minutes of waking up, your brain will like really absorb whatever energy you give it.
That's true.
So I usually wake up and I'll do like a motivational video, right? Or I'll get on my bike and I'll listen to a motivational video first thing in the morning or something like that, because I want to like start my day with like, positivity, but also like a drive, something to like, okay, go get going. Like you got this, and then I do have a gratitude journal, but I really do like these motivational like videos in the morning. I don't know how to explain it, but it definitely just helps my whole vibe for the day.
I could see that. And I think something I would suggest doing is having a visualization board or like something. So I did this last year. I just stopped doing it. But the minute I wake up, I have like the goals I want to achieve, or like some quote or something, like the first thing I see, or like my wallpaper or something. And then that kind of gets me on. But I agree with you. So like I start my day off with gratitude, but you start every day off with motivation and like getting the drive off. And that just works for everyone. Yeah.
I definitely need to keep more gratitude, like journaling and whatnot, because I really like that. It's just, have you read what is it called? Atomic Habits.
I have not. I need to read it.
Yeah. So I really like that book, and from that book and from personal experience, and I'm sure everybody knows this, habits are just impossible, right? Like a new habit is just so difficult. Bad habits too easy. And one of those habits is, writing, getting like diligent on writing every morning. But I like to kind of stack all my habits in the morning, right? So if I want to read a book. I'll do it in the morning. If I want to meditate, write in my gratitude journal, exercise, that motivational video when I wake up, I do those in the morning because one, I'm less likely to push it off later in the day. Like if it's 4 p.m., I'd be like, or, if it's 4 p.m., I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'll write at 7. I'll write in my journal. 7 happens, you're dinner, you're tired, you're in bed and later, and then you're like, I'll do it tomorrow. So I feel like when you get it done first thing in the morning, at least, and there's, I don't know if you read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
I think I have. Is that
Stephen Covey?
Stephen Covey. I have not. I read How to Win Friends and Successful. By
Influence People or something?
Influence People by Dale Carnegie,
Yeah. So with that book, with the Highly Effective Habits book, there's like 4 quadrants. Mm-hmm. And apparently quadrant 1 is like important and urgent, which is what everyone always focuses their time on. And quadrant 2 is important but not urgent. Quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. So it's like that, right? So, but if you look at quadrant 2 again, where it's important but not urgent, these are things like exercising, eating right, meditating, right? These are things that are important to us, but they're not urgent, so they get pushed off. And oftentimes you'll see this big list of quadrant 2 things that people just don't do. So it's also understanding that that's always going to happen. Like people write, New Year's plans to change, mm-hmm. and then in a blink of an eye, it's another new year. And then you just move over the habits you said you would do last year to the next year. And we've all been there. So I think the hardest part is taking initiative and then figuring out a system that works for you to like keep going.
I agree.
Yeah.
And for the listeners, I found something ironic with having habits and having a schedule. Is I'm a very spontaneous individual. I don't really like having schedules, like having my time booked. But with personal development, with this morning routines and everything, I do like it booked, because I've found that every time I do the morning routine, I have more freedom in my time. I have more free time, which kind of is counterintuitive, because you'd expect you had less free time after you do a routine, because you feel like your entire day is scheduled. But for me, it doesn't feel like that. It gives me more free time, because I feel like I'm mentally prepared to do what I want to do, and I have that mindset shift, I guess.
That mental preparation is crucial for momentum and doing other things. Like I said, when I wake up at like 8 or 9 or something and it's way past the morning, the sun is up, I don't have that morning routine down, I didn't do it, I feel less productive because I don't have that momentum. I don't have that mind shift, is not ready to tackle the day. Something else I noticed that really helped me was I do like structure, but I like structure with flexibility. And I always said that when it comes to things like planning a trip or something, right? I want to structure like, oh, let's go see these places, but if something cooler pops up, we can just flip it, do something, be flexible, but structured. I just recently started doing that with my own like productivity and planning out my days. I used to completely structure it. And then I realized, it took me a long time to realize it, but I'm not someone who's just structure. I like that structure with flexibility. So I block out things that are, essential, like the habits and the morning stuff, before senioritis. But anyways, I blocked those out. But then I started leaving like big blocks for just work. So it'll just say work, but what work I do depends on like my to-do list. And I started doing these like tags where it's like, oh, this is a low energy assignment, this is a high energy assignment, this is a low time or low priority or high priority, right? So I started tagging those 3 types, and that's helped me a lot, because I'll wake up and at first you'll be very productive, you'll have a lot of energy, so I could tackle high energy things, and maybe by like 6 p.m. or 7, you start getting a little bit more tired. I'll tackle like either low time or low energy or not low priority, but you get what I'm saying. Like you kind of start having that flexibility with structure. So I guess, for those of you listening, you got to figure out your own system, I think is really important.
I agree with that. And something that you mentioned came up to my mind was self-awareness. And I think self-awareness is a huge, huge, powerful, just power, like a superpower in today's time, is being aware of what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So for you, it took you time to become aware that you like that flexibility. And I think that's crucial because that shows that you're improving and you're like reflecting on on your strengths and weaknesses, and like making sure that you're adjusting for your strengths rather than your weaknesses, and that. And I feel like not many individuals are self-aware to reflect. And when I was young, or like when I was first going through this, I was afraid to reflect on my own life because I knew I wasn't doing the best I could do. And I felt that guiltiness, like I could be doing better. But once I like confronted that fear and like I started like making goals, like trying to change how I could to become more productive in a sense, with that self-awareness, it helped me a ton more. And I guess another helpful tip I would give the audience is, with self-awareness, I was able to develop this skill through just journaling and reflecting, and just journaling my thoughts, journaling the goods and the bads, and just taking time to reflect. Because I don't feel like as a society we don't take time to reflect. It's always go. But COVID gave us that time to reflect, and I think that was like one of the good things that came out of it.
Yeah, reflecting has probably been the biggest shift for me. I think without reflecting, I wouldn't have figured out, oh, this is a better system for me, or this is how I work. And I also have noticed things like, and I'm sure, let me know if you've done this too, but you kind of get hard on yourself that you want to be a certain skill, but that's not how you are. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say you're an extrovert, but you want to be for some reason more introverted on this certain thing. So then you keep trying, but you're being hard on yourself, and that's not your strength. You know what I mean? Does that ever happen to you?
I would say yes, but I also kind of believe that your personality could change. And if you want something, like if you want to become like a better sales individual, more extroverted, you could put yourself in those situations. It's going to be a lot of discomfort, but you could put yourself in those situations to slowly better those skills. But I guess you also have to look at the pros and cons, and like the time invested into doing that. You could rather just invest in your strengths and make your strengths like exceptional strengths rather than focusing on your weaknesses. But I do kind of feel like that, like, yeah, I can't think of an example, but I do understand.
What do you think is more important? Focusing on your strengths, like building on your strengths, or building your weaknesses up?
I'd say focusing on your strengths is more important. But I would also say if you enjoy your weaknesses, if it's a skill that you enjoy learning, then definitely get that to like a moderate, at least average level. Yeah. And then for me, I guess that's going to be like filmmaking, or like with podcast, like understanding how to ask questions, understanding how to listen, and that kind of stuff, going with the flow. That's a skill that I was struggling at, but then I was just, what was one of my weaknesses, but then I slowly developed it, and that's something I enjoy doing. But in the long run, like if you're going to invest like a career into something, do it on your strengths.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. I was trying to think of what's the best way to put this. I think long-term focus on strengths, right? Because for me, I enjoy this podcasting stuff. It took a while to get used to, especially editing and stuff. And now I can do a decent job, enough to, post, edit myself, and do all these things. But long-term, do I want to be like an audio engineer? No. So I don't want to hone in on this skill and keep getting better forever, because that's just not my interest. I'd rather focus on my strengths, which is, going to talk to people or reading books and, analyzing them and doing these other things and improving those strengths, and just getting this weakness to a moderate level of my liking because I was interested in it, because it's a, you know how it is. It's an essential component to editing, to making podcasts is editing.
I think that also goes back to the inner child. Just bringing it back up is, well, a child would like develop skills to help to become better at it because they're actually interested in it, rather than developing a skill because it's like it gives you a high payroll, or like it gives you as a good profit at the end. So the intention is important too. So are you going towards a job that makes you happy? Yes, I would say. So I'm studying to become a doctor. I want to become a doctor. I want to start my own private clinic and everything. Look, when I say change the healthcare system with the idea of play and in a child, I want to like have like a playground clinic where at the very forefront it would just be like a play place for kids, and then in the very back it's a doctor's office. So the doctor's office is like a second thought, where like people, the first thought would be like, oh, I'm gonna go to like the playground clinic, and like they'll be like having fun with other kids. It'd be just like a little like play place kind of thing, where like parents could put their kids in when they're going to work. And for me, I want to be a pediatric neurologist, so a doctor for children with developmental disabilities like autism and Down syndrome, that kind of stuff. So because that's my interest, I want to like have a clinic for like those kind of individuals. Well, we have like social workers, or we have like individuals like the doctor, even like me. Like I could go and play with these kids, like get on the ground and play with them, like and get into the playtime with them, understand how they view the world from their perspective, and make sure that I don't want to change how they view the world, but just like accept it and like let them develop it for themselves. And if something happens, then the doctor's office is in the back. So like if some people go for the doctor's visit, they had to go to this play place first, and then at the very end is the doctor's office. So that's how I kind of want to change the healthcare system, with the idea of play. But down the line, I kind of see myself becoming an entrepreneur, stepping from the doctor, and then becoming like making Playground into a consulting company, or like a company where I go into corporate spaces, where I go into education spaces, and like have creative workshops or imagination workshops where I teach students and I teach employees how to think creatively, how to imagine, how to use their inner child gifts into their current studies, or into their current life, or into their current work. And then I'll try to prove with the employees and the corporations is that by focusing on play, focusing on these like soft skills, the total like the company's profits would increase naturally, because more people would want to like be a part of that company, and then like turn like positive psychology their stuff. But I'm still working on that, but those are like the big dreams.
You know who that sounds somewhat similar to? Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he has something similar to that with like his whole consulting thing, and his whole thing is, you know, being happy, doing what you love because it makes you happy. And I like the way you put it. It's a very unique shift, but I think nonetheless a crucial one. All right, well, I appreciate you, PK, being on here, and you know, everybody listening. And this was an awesome talk. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you, Shiva, for having me on this podcast, and I'm excited to see where this podcast goes.
Yep, yeah, and I'll leave all your information in the podcast description, and you guys should go check out his podcast. It's called Playground PK, or is it just Playground?
It's just Playground. My Instagram handle is playground.pk, but the podcast name is just Playground.
Okay, all right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.